Good evening, friends, foes, and those bound here by a mysteriously worded pact you definitely did not read all the way through. Welcome to This Is Your Questline. My name is Wisteria Daggerford, and if you've heard of me from the Fae, no you haven't. Tonight, I'm joined by a very special guest, but first, if you're wondering what in the nine hells you're doing here, allow me to explain. You have been summoned to this plane to hear first-hand accounts from adventurers like tonight's guests, their wins, their losses, their not-so-near misses, with death, messy little choices, and trust me, these ones are really messy. And trust me, it's so good you'll simply die, but not me, because I can't. You, however, can. But tonight, our next guest is living proof that you can major in mysterious coincidences and magical nonsense, if your parents have the coin for it. Hailing from one of Eladria's most recognizable family names, and possibly one of its most messy libraries. He thinks he's got a head full of ancient languages, a heart full of half-baked conspiracy theories, and a map with more X's than your last lover's sending spell history. He's charming, well-read, mildly cursed, and dangerously convinced he's on the brink of a world-shattering discovery. Please welcome Marcus Atticus Drody. Marcus, thank you for joining us.
What an absolute delight. And Wisteria Daggerford, your name echoes across the multiverses. And of course, I know of your work, and I understand that I will be the first of our fabulous history-changing group. And you're welcome.
I think you might be the one that's welcome, actually. But thank you for that speech. Marcus, I hear you are a fan of a good story. So let's kick this off by finding out where yours began. Your little hero's journey. Tell us about it. Where did it all start?
My journey began with not a step, but a story. A tale I couldn't forget. One I feel unfinished. I wasn't born an adventurer, Wisteria. I was born a listener. But then I realized the world didn't need another listener. It needed a voice. So I picked up a quill, and then a shovel, and then magical artifacts. And here we are.
Okay, so your story began with a quill and a shovel.
It did, Wisteria. It did. I spent many years, and I've actually written, a small memoir of my academic disasters, where I went to universities. My family, the Drodys, very well travelled, connections across all of Damada. And we got to a point where, as the third child of five, I didn't want to do the family business, to grow it, develop things, make lots of money. I want to go and experience life at the rawest. But I wanted to do it where I didn't need this just life of comfort. Not that I still don't like the comfort, but I didn't want the comfort. So I went out to universities all across the land to find the brightest and best. And I was deeply disturbed by what I saw. Lots of old stories, Wisteria. Very boring, very dry. So I reimagined them in a better way.
Well, nobody likes a dry story, do they? You managed to say a lot without saying much at all, Marcus. Do you take that as a compliment?
I do, as it happens, Wisteria. And it's just the look in your eye every time I say something that inflames the senses, that brings me not joy, but it means you, the listener, have taken something that I have said, changed, and it has changed you, made you better for being just here listening to me.
Sure.
Thank you.
I would like to know, however, you mentioned your family and their reputation. Tell us about them. They're somewhat a mystery.
Families, I have a wonderful family. My mother runs probably one of the most organized merchants within Mullahir, which, if you're not familiar with it, we have 5 continents in Dumada, which is a world that was once old, had a problem, and is now new but still old. And we kind of had some gods beforehand, I think, and now have 4 gods, but we'll get to that a bit. But Mullahir is where I'm from, which is a very bohemian place. And that place allowed us, my family, to grow, to find out what was worth to others. And again, very, very, very great opportunities across not only Mullahir, but Sediva, the hottest part, and to the east. To the north, there's Kaivala. To the south, Agora. And then finally in the center, no, that's Ascenders. Caught you out there. In the center is as Agora. At the bottom is Ascenders. And each of those has its own different needs. And my mother was very good at doing it. And then she met my father, who is a little bit fey. He looks into the distance, the worlds, and she married him, and he was loaded. So it became a lot better. And then we had me, I had my brother, my sister, me, another brother, and then another sister. Easy, right? To follow.
I don't
Trade,
have a
money.
family, so I don't know. So what exactly is it that they trade in?
Well, mother always finds a deal. We started off with land, and then we started off with transport, and then we moved to wine for a short time, and then we moved to fruit, and then we moved to animals, and then we moved to antiquities at a certain point, which I became very interested in. And then currently, I believe we've got a lot of boat stock and investments in finances. So a lot of the materials that go from, especially from Sediva, and I would say in Ascendus, a lot of the mining of what was there once beforehand. It's fascinating stuff, and I really want to dive into it because I'm not sure what Mother was doing down there, but we'll find out.
So what you're saying is that you trade in mostly materials.
Well, it's what the people want at this point in time. Again, you'd have to speak to my brothers and sisters. I kind of lost interest quite dramatically, apart from when it got to the artifacts. As I said, Wisteria, they really are concerned about balance sheets, about profits, not having losses. Wisteria, I find, as long as I've got other people's money and the time and the opportunity to get my hands on certain things, I'm okay.
It just seems interesting that your family is so driven by mortal material things, while you're out here seeking magics and history and stories.
Well, it's a curious opportunity that came across from my family that we met in Damado. Just to be clear, the elves are very small in numbers, and but we happen to have a family nearby us, as it happens, and that family themselves, I and it sounds strange, but I knew their daughter very well, Briley, and it didn't seem out of place to me, but I think it gave me a different perspective than the rest of my family because elves are incredibly long lived, and Bridie and her mother and father don't seem to have changed a day in my 42 years on the world of Demardon, wherever I am currently. And I think that's been one of the parts where you realize that you're a small piece in an ever moving history. It's fascinating, really. Marvelous, one would say.
Speaking of being a piece, it sounds like you're a part, actually, of a group of people that you're traveling with currently. Am I right in saying you don't actually quite know them that well?
Look, as someone that attracts those around him and finds possibly the best or the worst in others, we met up in a uncurious set of events. The first I met was, again, the mysterious Valenda, who is a drow, which is incredibly rare. I just seem to draw the rareness to me. And we met them at Emberfest in Agora. Now, that led to meeting Scarlet, who, apart from her appearance of appearing a young woman that's either a noble or someone that's going to smash people's skulls in, turns out, oddly enough, to be of celestial bloodline and are very, very rich. Now, I'm rich, but Scarlet's family is uber rich. I mean, so rich they probably own mountains and probably a continent somewhere, which no one knows about. But the bells that she comes from, she's run away. Then we had the unusual opportunity of running into an even rarer type of elf. I mean, they just seem to attract themselves to me, Wisteria. And this was Delphine, who came from the Feywild, if you know where that is. Taking extensive notes. If you need a history, just call on me and I'll give you several.
Oh, I know it quite well. Thank you, Marcus. Continue to explain it to me.
No, you're welcome. I will Marcus explain to you whenever you need it, my dear. And then finally, Hikari, who is a warrior monk. Got it wrong the first couple of times, but apparently a warrior monk. A man. Well, I don't think he's actually a man, but he is male. But anyway, he seems to be elemental in nature. I haven't yet fully defined what he is because, it's been a very short time and it's been a bit awkward as he claims that my best friend is his best friend and my version of my best friend isn't a murderous villain, which seems to be his best friend. But he seems to be a lovely chap so far.
We will get to your friend, by the way.
Sure.
I'm holding on to that one. But you've told me about them. What I would like to know is if you had to summarize your opinion of them in one sentence or less, describe them all in one sentence or less, Marcus. I'll be counting the words and the breaths that you take of your God's honest opinion on these people you're traveling with.
Valenda. Murderous intent. Lost. Seeking. The other side of his even more murderous mother.
Okay, that's Valenda. The next one.
Scarlet. Ascending angel without a purpose that she yet knows of. Seeking the destiny she doesn't want to have.
What was the next one? Delphine.
Delphine. A dream hero manifested in flesh.
And Hikari.
Seeking redemption for crimes that are not his.
Interesting. Crimes, you say? Would you like to be more specific?
Well, just amongst friends. It appears Hikari's randomly murdered a very good, now colleague of ours. We're going to call her Tybella's love interest. He was involved in murdering him. And this has caused a downfall of a protection of gods called the Earthkeeper. It's all very Veilkeepers. It's very confusing. But he seems to have accidentally got involved in the evil version of my friend Briley and up to all sorts of evil shenanigans, which seems to be incredibly violent. So I think he's killed people, on the off chance that he was doing the right thing when he was doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. It's marvelous, really.
Speaking of doing the wrong thing for right reasons, with all the adventures you've been on, would you consider yourself good?
Goodness, no, dear. I'm a storyteller. Good and evil is for others. I simply detail it down, and I have to be in the right time in the right place. And if that means I have to be evil at the time to get the good story, well, mark my card and let's move on. Such labels don't really apply to the storyteller and the author of the book. It's the heroes and villains around me.
So then what's the worst thing you've done in service of a story?
I allow others to fully grow themselves and show themselves. The deaths of others not at my hand, but basically just being there is a thing that's happened. I mean,
Just being there.
Just Wisteria. Let me frame a story for you.
Tell me the entire story, Marcus. Go on. I feel like you might anyway.
Well, it was going to be that way, but thank you for offering me the opportunity. The thing, Wisteria, we were looking at is we met this kobold. I remember his name at some point in time. I think it was green or possibly orange. But anyway, he came to us with a story of woe, which we never really paid much attention to. Now, is that my fault or the fault of the kobold, Bimmy, Bammy, whatever his name was? Anyway, he turned from probably a lost soul to one that was drawn to a dark and a very attractive, a very handsome woman who is evil, and then followed her bidding and then ended up in the hands of Valinda dead. So, was it my fault? No. Was it Grommy's fault? That was his name. Was it Valinda's fault? Absolutely not. But he did stab him so quickly, I don't think he knew he was dead until he fell down and hit the floor. That was one story. Grommy dying at the hands of Valinda. Righteous ending?
How many other people have just mysteriously died in your presence?
Currently counting 6.
Could you name them all?
Well, do the ones that I bring back to life technically count as dead?
Were they dead?
Well, it was, again, Tybella sort of 50%, so we'll call 5.5. How's that?
Sure.
Okay. But yes, there have been a number of people that, skilled individuals other than myself, because I don't believe in violence. Well, I do believe in violence, but not done by my hand. We've lost an owlbear, we've lost Grommy, we've lost some other random individual that was in place. A couple of guards, they died really, really horribly because Delphine just literally, apparently just burned them to holy shreds. The owlbear was kind of wildly entertaining as well. There was Astrid that died. She was lovely. I saw a lot in her that I thought we could have a connection in a different level, but then she just dropped dead from poison. And then obviously Tybella's kind of not death.
It's strange.
Some others, but we won't mention.
You have some people that have died, but you also have some people that have disappeared. Is Briley the first that has disappeared in your presence?
Well, define disappear.
Haven't seen since you suspected them last alive.
Well, yes. Well, again, let's just frame it this way. Being the middle child and having a mother that was very keen to marry me off, I had occasional marriages aligned, and my betrothed in 2.5 cases, I like the half feature, mysteriously disappeared for reasons. So that's pre-Briley. Then Briley one day just disappeared and left me a map and some clippings, and so 3.5 technically.
Speaking of your map and those clippings, you say you're a man of conspiracy. Tell me about the largest one currently poking at all those squishy parts of your brain.
Well, I'm glad you asked me that wonderful question. Thank you. It's marvelous. Had you asked me, but days ago, it would have been very different, Wisteria. But as we met the incredibly lethal and murderous Useska of the Shadowbinders, um, I think my story has changed. The book that we got, which we didn't know about, was called the Book of Divinity, and that book apparently tells stories before Damada's original apocalypse event, so the cataclysm that happened. And according to her, and again, she seemed to believe it would give her access to divinity, godhood, if you want. And that has become the new mystery. Is it the book that gives it, or is it abilities within the book that gives it, or is it the fact that she's killed off everyone that may stop her from becoming godhood, or is it she knows things that allow her to get through? So the book itself is a nexus to, you've guessed it, a conspiracy of godlike proportions.
So, throwing those questions aside, you come face to face with this Yusefka. You can't ask her any of those questions or about the book, but you can ask her 3 questions. What questions do you ask?
First question, why did she send Valenda's friend to an immediate death? So my understanding is that Valenda was on a mission to gather this book. Now, she seems to have powers and abilities. She waited till Valenda and his very close friend got there and then murdered them on the side. Is she framing people for a reason? And was Valenda's very close friend, Narcelia, part of the Veil Keepers that were stopping people from moving across? Was she doing 2 for 1? To get this book and then assassinate someone that took an opposition or something would stop her? Would be my first question.
Okay, 1 down, 2 to go.
Second question is, she used martial arts of the shadows. My fascination with her is, what would be the pathway to learning such things? Hakari is, again, a martial figure that learns how to use the elements. Could he learn these abilities? Or could he use those skills to defeat her in, say, Mortal Kombat a bit later down the line when we get, into a problemsome area?
And question 3.
And question 3 is, she had a library. So Kaivala is a northern kind of like district. It's full of mountains, beautiful place, cold, lots of diamonds, fantastic, marvelous stuff. But in Namrita, the capital there, she claims it's her area. Now, again, this is going to jump a little bit, but my femme fatale, which is Rayella, stole a book from her. Does Yusefka have a library of hidden information, forbidden knowledge, forbidden to whom and why? That's what I'd like to know, where it is, how I can get access to it, and can she give me the keys? Would be marvelous. Just a simple thing.
Interesting. You say so much. That was certainly more than 3 questions. But I'm willing to let it slide because I don't care. However, you speak of femme fatales. I hear, seen as yet to be revealed, you're quite the charmer. Tell us about your first true love, Marcus.
Are you talking of a love of family, a love of country, a love of learning?
I'm talking about true love, Marcus. Romantic in nature.
Wisteria, you struck on a raw nerve.
Well, I can do so, darling. This is my realm.
And again, I appreciate you having the candor to ask the difficult questions of, someone who feels unable to fully answer you. But allow me to try a few words. I've never been lucky enough to find that true individual. I met a number of beautiful souls through my journeys, but not the one that is so written in the books. And I still ponder if that's out there.
Would you say that your heart is open to love?
My heart is always open to anything and everything. It's the experience, Wisteria. It's experience we're looking for.
I did warn you that we'd start talking about your friend. And it's no secret, because seriously, it's no secret. You've mentioned it about 1,000,000 times tonight. A close friend of yours, a young Briley. If she were to appear now, when I zap you back to your plane, or to your world, and were to offer you passage with her or your current companions, who would you continue to travel with? You can't have both, darling. It's selfish.
Again, a vexing question, but one I think I'm up to the challenge with. So the current events that we're facing, the Briley I knew wasn't the person to go venture. She's not Hikari's possibly dangerous, possibly villainous individual. But the Briley I knew was more the academic, more the jokester, more the person that would go out and speak to people. She wouldn't engage in this dangerous and, I would say, almost fatal mission that we're heading towards to try and save Damada from itself.
Are you sure?
I'm fairly sure, and because I'm writing it up as that way. So whenever they find our corpses, that's what I'm going to be writing up, Wisteria. But
Right.
I believe it will be us, and I need the people around me, because that's stuff that legends are actually written about. Briley, I don't know which version of Briley she is. So the old version of Briley I knew would not be as useful in this epic quest to either save or end the world.
Well, I hate to say it, but I do like to play dirty. So it would be silly of me not to share that I was actually able to get in contact with your Briley. And she asked me to ask you, why couldn't you tell me goodbye to my face?
Wisteria, there is a spice to you that is like the hottest flames, but Briley disappeared on me, not the other way around. One day I awoke and there was no Briley. There was a map and some clues to Emberfest in Agora. So this is curious. I'm trying to work out if you're talking about my Briley or Hikari's version of Briley. So I'd be curious to know which one you're talking to, because my Briley probably wouldn't have done that.
I can tell you that, at least from my not mortal plane of existence, that I only know of one.
Well, that's very fascinating. Imagine people being multifaceted. And if she can play a long game or a short game, well, that's going to cause all sorts of cats amongst the pigeons moments. I will remember this when I return, right?
Maybe. Depends. The other thing I'd like to point out is it's interesting that you counter what I have spoken to Briley about. Or in fact, what she's spoken to me about, because from what I have seen, you left her a letter saying that you were going adventuring and that she was out seeking you, not the other way round.
Well, here's the thing. I'm here and she's not. So let's just take my word as it was. Why would I travel all the way through to probably the most boring place in Damada, which is Agora, which is basically a place that doesn't like magic, has a hard time throwing a decent party, and to be wildly clear, yeah, just doesn't like any kind of normal thinking. I mean, it's just quite dull. The other places have a rawness to them or an intensity. They've got rid of gods, they've kind of put in a system. It's all very blah. Why would I go there? I could have gone somewhere else, Wisteria. Why would I leave?
Interesting. Speaking of. Oh no,
Yes.
sorry, please, after you.
No,
You're
no, no.
my guest.
I was just looking for something to write with, and I just don't appear to have quills or whatever else, which
Just
is deeply
summoned from like thin air is just
Oh.
this quill that's handed to you. It is incredibly fine, and you, Marcus, can add this to your actual Echoes of Divinity inventory that you can take into the next session.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's like a peacock feather. It's really cute. What is it that you're writing down, dear?
You remember that I said that sometimes history is quite dull and uninteresting. I'm just carefully ensuring I capture your words in a way that will resonate with an audience that isn't you.
I don't care about them. What I do care about is admitting that I'm a big fan of secrets, and I love that we've uncovered a few already. But while it's just you and I here, and as she kind of says that, the entire studio that you're sitting in, with like all of these kind of magical beings, just goes dark, and there's a spotlight just on both of you. You can't see anyone else. You feel like they're there, but you can't see them. And she says, "What's a secret about yourself that you have yet to tell your party? It's just you and I."
I think they don't understand I'm a torchbearer for passions in the past. I'm lighting fires in the cobwebs of ancient memories and bringing them to it. Now, they may not like what is illuminated here, because the great mysteries are mysteries until they're uncovered. And by hook or by crook, Wisteria, we're going to uncover some of those, and some of them may be more painful to the wonderful party I'm with than they want to. But that's what it is. Pain and growth is the same thing, and they need to grow and possibly suffer the pain, unlike me. So I'm willing for their sacrifices to unveil some of the truths that they need as well as I do, for the story to commence and then further write itself.
So that secret is...
That secret is that probably if I look across the group and their complex natures, I have Hikari, I have Delphine, who are both most likely heroes. Hikari is finding his way. We have Scarlet, who is a woman of power that sits in her place, but no direction. And Valinda, a very, very complex man, similar to my own heart, but I think my heart's darker than his because he has a simple set of truths he wants to uncover. I want to uncover them all, and I am willing to do what it takes to make that reveal.
So let me get this straight. Willing to do what it takes. Would you betray your party?
Enhance the party, not betray the party. Enhance Wisteria. Betrayal is such a moment in time word. As an example, when I finished this conversation and finished having dinner, I'll be talking to Rayella, who may or may not be a nemesis of her own, but she's a very, very, very handsome nemesis. very handsome nemesis with powers that I don't really understand, and a lot of knowledge about us, which really she shouldn't have.
So let me streamline this, and I am going to give you as small amount of words to answer me with as humanly possible, because that's what you are. Let's say Rayella, who you speak so highly of, and lowly, I guess, were to approach you and say, I will give you all of the knowledge and answers you seek. All you must do is join me and turn on your party. Would you do it?
Let's find out together. You can be watching.
Oh no, the fourth wall, it broke. So we've spoken about secrets about you, or we've tried to, and you've handsomely deflected, as you would put it. What's the biggest secret that you think you know about each of your party members that they don't know that you know?
Yeah. I will start with Hikari because he's the newest of our group. I think the secret I know for Hikari is he is seeking something that is out of his reach. He is a man of honor, and I feel compassion, which is very annoying because, again, he's claimed my best friend is his best friend, and blah, 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 blah. And he knows her far better than I do, and blah. And then he's, obviously very capable of what he does. But I don't think he actually knows the true depths that he'll sink to save himself and others. And I think his too kind heart is going to get him into problems.
Okay, so that's Hikari. Speak me through the rest of your party members.
Delphine is too pure for this world, and that purity will lead her to a level of not darkness, but of deception of what she understands about this world. She sees it in far too many colors and happiness from it. I think she's going to suddenly discover the very human side of Damada and the nature of loss, of sadness. And I fear, sadly, very, very sadly, she'll feel bitterness over something that she does, which is a genuine sadness because she is such a bright light.
It's oddly sweet of you, Marcus.
She is an unusual spirit to be in an unusual world like Damada.
And what about Scarlet?
Scarlet. A child of the divine walking amongst us. And one that doesn't know, well, she does now, but she didn't realize that A, she was a divine being, B, her mother isn't her mother. It was actually a sister, and her grandparents have killed her mother to make sure, and then they all hate magic. My fear about Scarlet is that, or my insight into Scarlet is she doesn't realize the destiny that she is driven towards. She's running away from it, and she keeps hiding behind the facade of being a dilettante, someone that just travels around enjoying life. She doesn't realize she has a purpose and she has a goal, and facing that is going to be phenomenal to watch and write about. Phenomenal.
Where do you think that story ends for Scarlet?
Either is the highest high or in a ditch.
That might be the shortest answer you've given all evening, Marcus. I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you.
Last and certainly least, Valenda.
Yes, we'll name him Valenda. In a very recent encounter, he took an opportunity to step in front of what could have been a final death. to save this lady Tybella, a fellow drow elf, which, as far as I can work out at the time, was just simply another drow that seemed to know Valinda. There seemed to be some sort of family connection, and I've yet to dive to the bottom of that one. But he named his family, and I know his family better than he could possibly imagine. And thankfully, he doesn't know. I know. His mother is the High Priestess of Loth, which, again, Wisteria may not know, but she's not a good god. She is very, very, very dangerous. And having a mother that is the high priest of such a goddess, well, it's not good for Valinda. And he mentions his father is driving directions. I don't think Valinda has an inkling that I put the two and two together and come up with the entire family history, his mother, his father, the empire they're building, and the fact that they're probably going to be start taking over Ascendus, then other parts of the ones, probably move into Agora and other ones, because that's what they strive to seek. And he's the child of both of them, of that union. And I bet he's on the run. I bet he's on the run. Because mummy and daddy won't like their little boy running around doing these things.
That's interesting, because I hear mummy and daddy don't like him at all. I also hear they're not actually in Ascendus, so that's quite strange. Continue.
Well, you are everything and more that I've heard about in the whispers from the spirits, Wisteria. You add those little sprinkles, the little stabs in there. But those little stabs, well, they could be cuts and fester, or they can make you stronger. I might die, let's find out.
I mean, darling, we all die, except for me, because I'm not mortal. However, let's talk about your map.
Cool.
Those little X's. What do you think they mean?
So, depending which Briley wrote them, and I know you say there's one, but I'm taking them as two separate personas, Wisteria, because it's much easier to contextualize that in a story.
I think what you mean is it's much easier to not face truths, right?
Again, we keep talking about truths. What I write is my truth, not the truth. It's my truth. All histories are a truth of someone writing it, Wisteria. We don't have some random person just writing things up on a page and then just believing it, but that's history for you, Wisteria. The victor, or the stories that come out, or the stories that last, are the truth. So, my truth may persist if I get published widely enough. And frankly, I need a better publicist, so if you do know one, that'd be marvelous. But
I don't need to publish. People write about me.
well, again, I one day hope to have a glimmering moment, but not to eclipse a star like yourself.
I've been chatting, or producers have been, that's not my job, I don't fraternize with mortals, to our audience members. And we have a question. That is, if Marcus could thank anyone in the world, who would it be and why would you thank them? And I don't mean a mundane thanks. I mean like a heartfelt, if you have one, thank you.
Again, self-serving as ever, but it would be Rayella at the moment. She put us on the pathway. Without her, I wouldn't have met Valinda. I wouldn't have met Scarlet. I wouldn't have met Delphine. And Hakari wouldn't have turned up. So the heartfelt thank you at the moment goes to probably one of the most dangerous women in all of Damada, Rayella.
Interesting. I have a question from one of your companions, actually. I don't know if they know that they asked this, but they have. How does Marcus feel about having one of the most mundane mortal names of all of his siblings?
Again, a parent's joke. My mother and father would have exotic names for my brothers and sisters. But my understanding is that Marcus had a special place in my father's heart. And I've yet to learn the full story of it. I need to speak to an uncle in Sediva, I believe, to find the full story behind that. But yes, again, the name Marcus Atticus Drody allows a certain flair in a world full of noise, cuts through it.
Let's talk immortality for a moment. Would you become immortal if given the opportunity? Being that you are the mortal travelling amongst... Or, I should say human, I guess, not mortal. The human travelling amongst those who aren't. Is immortality something that you would chase?
Having a lifetime, a mortal lifetime spent amongst the elves, which don't change. If I reach an old age, Valenda would not have aged a single day to my eyes. Briley, the same. Her mother and father, not a change. Is that worth it? The journey that we lead and the stories we tell, compressed into a lifetime, a dreariness of eternity just waiting for another major event. Why? Why not lead the fullest life you have and blaze out? Or, as I said, be buried in an unmarked ditch somewhere along the roads in Kaivala as a good example. However, for me at the moment, unless there is a reason that I've yet to actually find or divine, mortality seems to be far more preferable than the lengthy lifetimes of the elves or the gods or the others.
It's interesting, I've heard recently, quite recently, that mortality is in fact the dullest prison. If you were to chase immortality, how would you go about it?
I already have immortality in
No.
my word.
No, not that bullshit. Like actual immortality.
Oh, you mean the other one that's slightly more... Well, that comes down to worship as far as I can work out. I mean, Wisteria, I have studied many of the great texts, many of the great treatises on what makes divinity, and it really seems to set up a cult which has a sister belief system which allows people to worship me. And once I get worshipped quite a lot, people buy the books, then they buy the merchandise, and then they kind of buy into things and start praying to me. Immortality seems to come. In Damada, however, I just need to get my hands on the Book of the Divine and lots of these kind of rings and these onyx rings that belong to the group behind them, take the spells from it, and then make myself immortal. Seems pretty straightforward, really. Quite logical, which is quite dull. Unless there's sacrifice involved somewhere, which possibly something to do with one of the two elder gods, I believe, that may exist. I know one of them, but not the second. And I could ask one of them, perhaps.
Let's talk about the gods.
Sure.
Would you prefer, based on what you know, to be ruled by the current 4 or the previous 2?
So, from the very brief readings, and again, I've had Scarlett help me transcribe it. Scarlett is great at many things. Not one would put down as an academic or someone that likes to read books. She more beats people to death with books, for example, or could frisbee across and take out someone's eye. Whatever creative things that she'd come up with. But I get the sense that if someone's put 4 new gods to fix what the last 2 gods in, the two other gods didn't do a good job, or were doing such a great job that they got usurped by the 4. So I'm tempted to find out what the 2 did, because I know what the 4 do at the moment, and they seem lovely. They're siblings, great, wonderful story. Love to find out about the 2, because we've been warned about them several times, and like any fires, I like to see how much I can burn my fingers before, scarring takes on.
You've also heard of a couple of organisations, one of which you've mentioned this evening, the Veil Keepers, is that right?
Oh, yes. Well, they're all dead, which is unfortunate, apart from Tybella, so problematic.
And then there's the other ones that you recently discovered through Yusefka, the Shadowbinders.
Yes. And
What
there's
is
the...
it?
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
please.
No,
No, no,
please.
please.
After
No,
you.
no,
No,
please.
no,
No,
no.
please. No, please. You're
Marcus, I
imparting
fucking
knowledge to me.
insist.
No, no, please. What can I do for you?
I just want to know your conspiracies on the groups.
So, hypothesis first on the Fell Keepers. I mean, I kind of feel they're a bit uptight in the first place. Because they have secret service, and they're using rings of what seems to be the former Demada, and the group that was there. Which, if I could dig out my notes, I'll find their names in a minute, and it will come back to me because it's just a recent piece of knowledge we've dug up. But they want to maintain some sort of balance to stop the gods from coming backwards and forwards. Perhaps they know more about in the book of the divine what problems that caused. But again, they've selfishly kept that knowledge to themselves rather than shared it, and they've created a world around them that is scared of magic. I mean, how ridiculous, Wisteria! How ridiculous to have a world scared of magic. I mean, just having the sheer knowledge and the ability to help others or destroy, planets.
I think most things humans do are fucking ridiculous, but here we are.
Yes, well, thank you. And the second group, which one would you like the Cord's Edge, for example, or the Emerald?
Oh, you're bringing up the Cord's Edge. Interesting. Let's add them to the list.
So, the Cord's Edge and are very, very terrifying. Yusefska and these Emerald Cloaks seem to follow the same sort of direction. The Cord's Edge are assassin thieves. And I feel that they're a regular organization in any part of the world, any government. You need to bump off someone when you don't like them, steal stuff, set fire to warehouses, all the things you do to increase market prices with your valuable set of commodities and people to help you through. I think they're just part of a normal world. I don't think the Cord's Edge themselves are good or bad. They are. They exist. They are life and death themselves. However, I do feel the Shadowbinders are, given their name and what they're trying to do, are quite obviously some sort of cult back to the whole piece. They've got a goal of doing something nefarious, one would say. Probably darkness and bringing, all the sort of stuff that you read in all the worst possible trash fictions and pulp out there at the moment. Nasty things at
Wow.
school.
Shadows and darkness. Groundbreaking, Marcus.
Thank you. Thank you. It's again, but it was a bit poor. But given what they do in the way that they operate, perhaps they're related to one of the elder gods. I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see because it seems to be again this martial capability that they've learned from something. Now they picked it up from somewhere, and again, the four gods of Damada at the moment really don't fit that pattern. So they've learned that from somewhere else, and that's the bit I'm fascinated between them and the difference between the Emerald Cloaks, which seem to be a match between because Yuseska was wearing an emerald cloak. Coincidence? I don't think so. It's not a fashion statement.
Speaking of coincidences, these rings that you all carry, what do you think they do?
Well, again, they are elder magic. I'm sure before the Demadas fall, they had abilities, probably gifts to denote powerful individuals and give them abilities. My understanding of one of them is they have an incredibly powerful time spell.
Interesting.
So, and when Hakari moved his ring to one of the stolen rings that the Valenda had accidentally found in Mulahia, which he apparently just liberated of some random passerby, and when the two touched, sparks flew, which is a magic I would like to understand more, or get someone who really cares about that sort of stuff, because I just want the magic, really.
Marcus, before we begin to wrap up, which I feel like with you is going to take some time, do you believe you have any self-sabotaging traits? Audience wants to know.
what traits aren't self-sabotaging at this point in time? I mean, the challenge that I face in this current environment is the ability to express myself that sometimes doesn't resonate with others. We're at the Bell's household, and I'm going to ask a number of questions, probably that may get us into murky waters at some point in time. But we'll find out. And again, this morality stuff that people keep talking about, the good and bad, are you evil? Will you betray people? That's a point of perspective on if you're on the winning side or not.
Okay. Let's talk about your proudest moment. What is that? And what is the moment that you are least proud of? Currently, let's be more specific. In the travels with your party.
Moment I'm proudest of. That's a good one. I've got many, many documents where I've done things which I think are incredibly moving. But again, the story isn't about me. I think the proudest moment that I've seen so far is the group coming together in two situations, but them drawing together and acting together and being the linchpin of that. My proudest moment is being there and enabling them to be the heroes they're destined to be.
And your least proud moment. Most ashamed moment, I guess.
Most ashamed moment. It's most likely at the castle at an Agora and with Rayla. It's probably not getting everything I actually wanted out of that. There was a moment where I had an opportunity to take more than I could possibly reveal openly. And that moment, Wisteria, is a lost opportunity which will haunt me for another probably 36 hours until the next meal.
Talking of lost opportunities, Marcus, excuse me while I go straight for the heart. Do you regret not telling Briley that you had feelings for her? And do you think that maybe that would have changed your course or paths significantly?
Left words and lost words always have a difference. And the what could be and what should be, as I've said to you before, it's what history records. Yes, at the time I would regret it, but the story now, Wisteria, I think I've done myself a greater service by not stating those facts. If there is more to Briley and there is a level of malevolence to a being that I thought was something very, very different. So at the time, I would have said yes, but now where I am now, no.
I'll be sure to let her know.
Thank you.
As a storyteller, Marcus, and what a story you have told for us this evening. Summarize for us your final chapter. Let's say your tale was coming to a close. What would be the sun-setting scene for Marcus Atticus Drody?
Would you like the grand cinematic or the more chaotic elements, Wisteria? Which one would you like to go for?
Let's call it a choose your own adventure and give the audience both to salivate over.
So, for a grander one, the sky is ablaze with colour. The last page of my journal flutters in the wind. I'm standing at the edge of the world. Wine in one hand, the book of the divine in the other. I look back at my companions and I say, write it well. Lie if you must. but make it worth remembering. And then I leap into the unknown with excellent lighting on my face. The other option, which I quite like as a piece, is I probably like to go out being trampled by an overexcited celestial chicken while doing a dramatic reading. But I go out monologuing, and that I can promise you, regardless how the fates end.
I love it. Now, Marcus, next week, next Tuesday, in fact, by your mortal calendar, I will be talking to your friend Scarlet. Is there anything that you would like me to ask her?
I would. The question I'd have for Scarlet is this. When will she start believing in herself and not the lies told to her about her?
Straight for the heart. I love it. Sign us off, Marcus. This is your chance to give people your words of wisdom and advice. Give us the Marcus sign-off.
Remember, all out there, it's not what you do, it's what's written about you. And as long as you pay well and they write well, you'll go down in history for being the hero you want to be rather than the villain you are. Mwah! Marvelous.
Well, darlings, here's to another soul held together by sheer willpower and some very questionable party dynamics. That's all we have for you, but stick around, I hear there's some mortal bullshit. More drama to come. They'll be right back. We'll see you very shortly.
I am flabbergasted. I am befuddled by the buffoonery before me.
Obedient?
What? What the fuck? Obedient?
That's one.
Choose your next two so fucking wisely.
Right, they've both been bitten by people that are infected by this disease. That's a problem. As far as he knows, Eden hasn't, and so Eden's the only one who can get on the boat at this stage.
I haven't.
Yeah, but Belle's been really fucking mean. And so his concern is for the chick who just kissed him, as opposed to...
Oh, wow.
To be fair, you
love how
did
you
also...
What was
Well,
I
that's my-
supposed to do? Kiss my brother?
I'm sorry, what?
Wait, alright, hang on.
Okay, hold on.
Hang on.
Hold
I
on.
came back from the dead to say that.
Hold on.
It is. This is a dowry.
Is that your love language? Just throwing logs? Great.
Correct. Random acts of lumberjacking is my love language. That's. Remember that
Explains
time I
so
dropped a tree on top of you?
Oh my
Now
god,
you know.
okay, now I understand. That was like the ultimate... Yeah, okay, great.
In which case, Valentin's gonna just very sneakily mount her and place his dagger at her throat.
Fucking knew it, you little bitch. Okay,
And
great.
in her ear, wake her with the words, "It's my turn. Tybella." And he'll wait for her to wake at this point.
And she does, immediately.
There are approximately 3 or 4 people on the face of this cursed earth who know who I truly am. And most of them want me dead. So far you don't seem to be one of them. And I'm lonely. Shall we have a little chat? You can inflict whatever you want on me, whatever you want, you know this. So you say you have strong opinions, please elaborate.
I have strong feelings more than opinions.
Sure. Feel me up. No? Produce your...
Okay, Elliot's in the boat. There's 2 more seats in the boat.
I can sit on someone's lap.
Fuck off! Get your own boat!
Oh no.
What the fuck? Wow. Oh, okay.
I don't know if you can see what my options are, but option one.
Hang on, let me pull these up over here. So this is option 1. Do you want to read it out for us, Emily? Can you?
I'm sorry, I cannot. I simply
Do
can't.
you want me to read it out? God.
I'm
Okay.
not crazy, I just got power word killed. Hamish,
Yeah?
Do it.
stop trying to stick your flute up his butt.
Whoa! Holy shit!
Oh my god! Why did you do that?
I do want to watch this though.
I have.
Fuck, I should have taken my clothes off.
met few aside from
Truly should have.
And turn to face the guards that are approaching Marcus.
Absolutely.
She's going to start approaching with her arms out to the ground.
Okay.
And as she's doing this, her dress, which we all remember was made of beautiful leaves, are going to start falling as though it's autumn.
Okay.
Her entire body is going to become covered in vines, and as the vines fall away, her armor and all of her weapons are back.
Excellent.
She's going to stand in front of Marcus
Quick roll
with her
D10.
shield on one arm and her sword in the other, and she's going to widen her stance with her sword towards the guards, and she's going to be like, come on, boys.
So, with a very blunt knife and a lot of tears, Blue painfully, slowly cut off her best friend's arm to save his life as a child. And even to this day, if she closes her eyes to go to sleep, she can still feel and see, like, just, you know, what it's like to cut off someone's arm. The one thing she would change about that is that despite her efforts and despite everything it took, she cut off the wrong arm and her best friend died anyway. So, if she had to change anything, it would be to go back in time and pick the other arm. You're welcome.
Talk about burying the fucking lead.
Wow. Okay, yeah. That... I'm not trying to hurt you, but I also have no reason to lie to you, Scarlet.
There probably could have been a way to sort of ease into things a bit more.
You're probably right, but I also wasn't expecting to see my dead daughter.
Oh, fuck off.
The problem is that I'm a chronic overthinker. So, like...
Oh, that's the problem, is it?
Yeah.
Woo!
I'm just gonna overthink about what Prometheus just said for so long.
Oh no!
Emily! Oh my god!
Stab. Oh no. What have I done? That's the anus for me. It's like, that's what a god should be.
Sorry, say that again.
This is my...
the what? Could you just repeat that one more time?
I look
Everyone push him off immediately. Oh my god!
No one can push him off.
I can. Check this shit out.
Yeah.
Fuck you, my buddy. Oh no!
Oh, you took me down! What have you done? Oh my god! Promethean!
As I'm like clutching at my throat, ripped apart. The injury's too much. Sink down. And as his life like flashes before his eyes, the last thing he thinks of is the Dragon Ball Z like afterlife, and he's like, "I'm coming, King Kai, King Kai."
This is why we're not fucking friends anymore. Fucking nerd.
He collapses.
Excellent.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, you right, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. It's just now I've got to start a tally of of,
Spit
ti-
takes you'll
of
make
times
it
that
to.
I've been made to spit by everyone in this group.
Hey, welcome back to This Is Your Quest Line, except it's the part where we're ourselves and normal, I guess. Hey, D20, thank you so much for hanging out with me this evening. This has been fun.
Well, thank you. It's been an absolute delight to be interrogated by you, and try not to destroy the very wonderfully crafted campaign that you put together.
Yeah, hey, listen, let's not go that far. But hey, just in case there are people in the chat that maybe haven't watched the Echoes of Divinity campaign, or maybe this is their first kind of exposure to seeing you, who are you? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, that's not going to happen. The important part is that I get to be a player in Emily's wonderful Echoes of Divinity with some other incredible human beings, and explore a world that Emily's created by herself and crafted from scratch. So not one of the Torals, Forgotten Realms, or any other Dungeons and Dragons one. Emily's put this together with some gods, people, and other places, and she was very generous to offer me a spot in it. And again, why not? It's been an absolute joy and pleasure to play a character that I really don't like bards. So this is
I know you don't.
This is so much fun to play something that's not really a bard, but it's a bard.
Yeah. And hey, if you're tuning in for the first time, my name's Emily. I'm the producer, GM, Chief Executive Thirstmaster, and your least favorite talk show host. Here at Hexes and Vexes. Welcome. We're gonna chat a little bit about character creation, but more specifically about Marcus and kind of how you got to Marcus as a character. But before we kind of get there, I want to ask you a question around approaching character creation, because I think for a lot of people, and how I knew you before Echoes, right, was we would see you kind of pop up on a bunch of different charity-themed one-shots or one-shots or mini-series in general. And I think first impression-wise, at least for me, was that you created these fucking hilarious characters that, like, simultaneously created absolute fucking chaos in the universe, but also managed to drive the plot. How do you take something like that and then change it up for a campaign? Like how versus your character creation for a one shot versus a campaign, what was the preparation difference for you?
So I've been lucky enough to play in a lot of campaigns and other ones, and you build a character around. For one shots, it's very different. So depending on the energy around the one shots, Emily's very kindly mentioned that we played a number of charity games together. In the first set of charity games, we had a number of professional DMs and experienced DMs that were coming to expect to run a plot. What they didn't realize was we could rain literally chickens into their adventure, set fire to things. We'll attack each other, because normally you don't do PvP. And in this one, we were happy to punch out. Emily tried to kill my character twice. She tried to kill MVC's character twice. A chap called Kendall in it I destroyed 2 of his games before that. So his character was trying to punch my one out and use me as a human battering ram. And the kind of list went on. And the DM there was a phenomenally good DM and had a really sensible Dungeons & Dragons adventure. Didn't really go that way because of wild magic. So wild magic, for those that haven't played in D&D, you roll some dice randomly and effects happen. Like fireballs, people going invisible, killing party members, that sort of stuff. And so the thing is that when you're creating a one-shot character, it's something you can remember, because unless you play lots of Dungeons and Dragons, it can be really complex. And then basically to have fun and make sure it's fun for other people that are watching too, because people are donating their time and their money to watch you and support you. And if they can do horrible things to a character that is either smarmy, childish, or basically needs to be beaten or blown up, right? It gives them an extra incentive to do that. Or on the far end of it, just delightfully things to help them rather than help the heel of the party. And that was the goal. It was to find things that were easy to remember. And Emily has the ability, this Emily on the screen here, has the ability to do accents. I try accents.
I
and
do
end up
not.
having
I
more
have 2 of them.
silence. I've heard more than 2 accents from you, and you've carried it through. Normally, when stuff's going south, I just end up middle of the road Eurotrash at some point in time, and I've had the joy of working and being around people who are professionally skilled at doing this. I end up being Eurotrash regardless of all the advice they give me. So for me, the one-shots characters really are the people playing with you, and if they're willing to go that level of silliness, then you just take it down that path where it gets to a level of absurdity. And we can talk about one of the games where you destroyed a universe, Emily.
Sorry, Declan's in the chat, and every time Declan's in the chat, I feel a threat coming on. So, like, fond memories from that, for sure. I left that, so for those wondering, this was Jasper's Game Week, or Game Day, sorry, the Australian edition that was hosted by Meeples and Dragons, and Ardent Roleplay. And it was fucking hilarious. Also, I think you failed to mention, D20, that you played in every single game that year across, 3 days? Was it 2 or 3 days?
Oh, it was a while. So here's the thing. Australia just started doing it. It was an incredible group of people playing D&D, and it was for an incredible cause. And people didn't know at the time the caliber of Australian role players and dungeon masters and role players out there as a whole, people that can go through. And so I took massive advantage of you all, and then just played in all the games. I didn't think I'd get in every single game, but I pretty much did. So,
Yeah.
And again, the money went to an incredible cause, and I think showed the capabilities of some really remarkable human beings that normally didn't get to see the light of day outside of their own small spheres on a semi-global stage. So it was great all round.
Yeah. When you got the call, metaphorically, from me to join Echoes, what was your first character concept, and was it Marcus, or did you just land on Marcus? Or what was like the initial kind of spark that created him?
Yeah, so here's the original group of people you had, right? A lot of them have been playing kind of Oops bards and whatever else, right? And have a creative capability. Promethean, who may or may not be chat, is actually an incredibly talented human being, which is kind of sickening. So the best parody is to destroy people's souls utterly and play something that should make sense and then twist it horribly.
Right.
So the same to you and him. It's like, why not play the bard who isn't going to sleep with people, who has no kind of actual artistic vocal capability? If an instrument comes, he's more likely to eat it than play it. That sort of stuff. And that was the first childish impulse back to the let's destroy a universe that Emily's about to create and then become a bard.
Right. Okay, love that. Listen, you haven't destroyed it yet, so that's nice.
I've tried. And then it came to the next bit. So again, I've been lucky enough to play quite a bit of D&D, and bards were never kind of like, again, there's been a movie, well, this was before the movie, but there've been a lot of people playing bards in a specific way. Critical Role, for those that kind of remember, that was 2018, 2017, 2018. And Sam from Critical Role had fixed the bar back into social memory about something will basically jump anything and has a particular approach, and I didn't want to do that. I had there were a couple of bards that I kind of really like, or the bard-esque kind of feel. The first one came from Knight's Tale, and was played by Paul Bettany, and he played Geoffrey Chaucer. And if you watch Knight's Tale, he is what I would describe as a storyteller, poet, and so forth.
Yeah.
But he goes through one of the more harder journeys as a bard. I kind of like that part, but given its Echoes of Divinity and it's your wonderful self running it, I then kind of went, well, you know what? I've kind of got to put a bit of a sprinkle on it to really kind of just drive the annoyance value into it. And there's been a particular set of movies, and there is a very well known serious actor that ended up playing a character called Lockhart Gilderoy from it, and if you've ever seen any movie that man's in, he's incredible throughout. But the sheer overbearing...
I'm listening to you. My cat's just being overbearing. Give me 1 second. Keep talking.
Yeah, the overbearing arrogance in the character and the self-belief in what he does is right is just great. So seeing that kind of transcend through both the characters, where there's a level of, hubris is going to kill you, but up to that last moment, you just keep faking it until you can lie about it. It is, I think for me, is a really good way to take a bard in this particular campaign. And again, for those out there, when your DM creates a world around you, so again, I'm fairly familiar with a lot of the Dungeons and Dragons worlds, and Emily had given us a completely new world, so this is all her creation. And my comment to her was, I'd like to at least pretend I know about something, and if
you do all the time.
You're just like, yeah, absolutely know about that. Then roll some dice afterwards, like know nothing about it, but just continue that facade. And I just found that fun to do, where it's like, yep. It's like go left, keep going left until you fall into the pit. That kind of thing. It just allows us to move forward rather than sit there and have a conversation about, do I know this and do I know about that? It's like, just assume I do, and away we go.
Yeah, and I think you do that quite well. I think something I mentioned in our in-character conversation was you say a lot without saying much. Is that difficult to play?
It is. So if you watch... So Kenneth Branagh did an incredible job of that particular character, and he was always quite directive. There was 2 bits. I wanted Marcus to be kind of a coward. I'm surrounded by heroes, and bards shouldn't be frontline. If they are, they're a different type of class, and I didn't want to do that. I just finished playing a paladin. We got very high levels and so forth, right? And it's great going in and murdering things. I purposely tried to derail Emily's campaign by not having any combats every time and come up with reasons not to fight, where I've got some very, very skilled players who can murder the living bejesus out of other things. So part of it is to work out how not to say something. So Promethean's character, Valinda, keeps asking Marcus's questions, and I purposely find ways to try and sidetrack not answering him. The original reason to do that was... we'd written up characters right back at the start, and Emily had said, here's some lore, and then it was a quite long time before we started playing, and I completely forgot where Marcus came from, so I didn't know he came from Malahir. And you asked me these questions, and I'm like, you know what, I can't remember for the life of me where it is, and that's why the wiki is so detailed, because I'm not having that happen again, because again, it's a problem for you, but it was just that moment of like, hey, hold on, if I say something without saying something, it annoys the NPC, which should then precipitate an action happening, and that action can be good or bad. And it was kind of fun, because it also allows my other fellow players to kind of step in, either correct Marcus, talk over Marcus, or shut him down, and that's hopefully become part of it, because when you originally said, I was like, I know Marcus come from Maladia, absolutely, from Malahir, so he's from here, his family do this, and this. Couldn't remember for the life of me, because the first question you asked when we got to the castle was like, where are you from, tell me a bit about yourself. It's like, no dear woman, can't tell you about myself because I can't bloody remember, and I couldn't find the PDF that Emily had sent me, so I'm like, oh shit. And it became a fun kind of thing to kind of riff upon from there. So again, sometimes the characters you have in your mind change quite dramatically as time goes on.
I think that's fun when they do change too, because I'm a big believer in, like, you can write the most specific backstory, but until you play the character, I don't know if you get a feel for them. at least that's my perspective and lived experience with a lot of the characters I've played. They definitely like start off as one thing and end up as another. Have a question from the chat from Xavier Light, which is a question I absolutely love dearly and was absolutely gonna ask you.
Sure.
When people create characters in D&D, often it's very easy to put aspects or traits from ourselves into that character, sometimes consciously, sometimes not. Is there an aspect you think you bring to Marcus that is from you, and how does it affect the character?
So, an amazing, phenomenal question. I've again lucky enough to talk to. When you first play any role-playing game, you're basically playing a version of you, and that's the way. So the first couple of iterations are you with superpowers. You're a vampire. You're whatever else, right? It's not you, but it's absolutely you.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to play with some really interesting people, including a bunch of actually trained psychologists who pointed certain things out, which is delightful.
Great.
No, it's a safe space to learn about yourself and the people around you, which is brilliant. And so with Marcus, I purposely have gone for as far away as me as possible in certain aspects. I think parts of it, I mean, you bleed through. Right?
Yeah.
You bleed through, but I can't pull off like a couple of phrases and a couple of things I pick up to say, here's Marcus. It's about the story, not about the people. So I try to edge away. I think there's, depending on certain emotional beats, certain parts might go through. But I've got like a couple of notes in different places to say, remember, this is what Marcus is trying to achieve and do that.
Yeah.
Which isn't what I do. It's not what I do, but it's like, hey, that's where he wants to go. And it makes it easier to play that character rather than, oh, I would do this, because there's been a couple of encounters where we've got to where it's like, I would do this, but I have to stop myself and go, no, I'm gonna do that. Probably the best example to give you is the Tybella stuff. So originally when we met Tybella, if you've been watching the rewatches, she held a knife to Marcus's throat and had a amulet of Loth, which in D&D is usually a really bad sign that something nasty is going to happen. And then they got quite chummy, and then we discovered that she's a lot more powerful than the party thought, and then she became a lot more aggressive, especially around Valenda and by extension Marcus. And as I said to the rest of the party, as Marcus gets more and more nervous, he talks more crap. So he says words without meaning anything, because it's that defensive mechanism you see people do where they kind of throw up words and and quite a lot more to be shut down. And then the more she shuts him down, the more he gets nervous about the conversation. And reminding myself, because for those that are watching, I get to play with some genuinely wonderful people, and they say things and it's like, that's really clever, and I want to listen to what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, hold on, I've got to be this person Marcus that's going to jump in and kind of like, I'm really scared this moment. There are moments where I can shut up because I don't have to be, but there are parts, Emily, which it gets really difficult, where it's like, hey, Emily needs to shut me down because Marcus is that scared. That's why I keep hiding behind Scarlet. So when we first met Delphine, he went behind Scarlet. When Tybella and Hikari came into the room, he hid behind the two most lethal people in the room. Yeah, Valenda's dangerous, but Valenda had a link to Tybella, so that's in Crossfire. You move off to those two, it was there. So there's kind of tactical bits where Marcus is always trying to run away. But for me, I am trying not to be me as much as humanly possible in this game.
Why?
So,
what would D20 have done?
There's different bits. So there's bits where I don't want the conflict to happen. So I would try and go and fix the conflict rather than agitate purposely. So there are bits where Delphine might, for example, quite like someone's sister, for example. And
Don't know what you're talking about. What?
Yeah, coming up in the next episode, and Marcus is accidentally going to agitate towards it because it tells a story, right? He's not going to realize until he works out and he's like, cool, and let's throw them in together. And there's these pieces where, you know, I wouldn't do that because it's not something you want to kind of force someone into a situation with and develop, you know, it's going to be fun to see how those ones play out. And then they're just poking and pulling at threads. There's kind of a lot of nastiness in Marcus to get a story done, which hopefully doesn't exist in me completely. It's there somewhere, but not completely.
Guess we'll find out. Who knows? What do you think in the campaign thus far has been the hardest? And I feel like this kind of rolls on from that question. The hardest roleplay moment for you?
There's been a couple. I think part of it is that when we first started, there was a lot going on. And you want to give the other players to have a space to talk, but there was so much going on. And so Marcus, we've all got our own backstories and whatever else, right? And kind of in D&D, you want to kind of lead on and do your one. I think the hardest bit was Marcus's attitude was the story will tell. So I really wanted to understand about some of Scarlet's stuff, and there was a couple of moments right back at the start that I really wanted to unpick quite quickly. Not Valenda, because I think his backstory is brilliantly obscured because of who he is. But I really want to pick on Scarlet. But because Marcus is so overly pompous, I purposely skipped that bit. And there was a brilliant bit if you watch some of the rewatches, where Tamia's Scarlet brings a level of emotion to it. And Marcus is like, oh, well, that's sad. Move on. Right? And that was really, really genuinely hard to do because I wanted to understand and ask all these questions.
Yeah.
And it's like, move on, right? This is whatever, right? It's kind of like someone having an emotional moment. And I think that's been the most challenging part. Two moments. There's been some other emotional beats in it, but I think that's been the hardest part. It's not kind of stepping into Scarlet's story immediately. It's kind of like being an arse purposely, so you can kind of move stuff on and find out a bit later on. Because it was 14 adventures before we found out literally more about Scarlet, right?
Yeah.
Which I personally hate. I literally want to know everything as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which Emily knows about because she gets a lot of notes from me saying, "What about this? What about
I
this?"
love it, by the way. I think it's great. I love the engagement. It's really good. I don't know if I could handle your level of engagement from everyone in the party. At least until I move states. But no, I love it. I think it's great. Like on the opposite side of that, what's the easiest thing you've role played so far?
Oh, the double cross. That was, you know, again, back to the question about what's more likely to be me. It's occasionally you've got someone that is always, you know, trying to pull a fast one on you, and there's a moment where you get to pull a rug on someone else. That's like, oh no, poor and. For those that haven't watched it, when you get to that particular episode, Emily was very, very kind and said, "What are you thinking?" rather than "What do we say?" Because if Marcus, he literally would have just run out of the room. So you gave us an opportunity to say what we think and what we look like. And it was kind of like the, "Oh no, Emily's dug herself into a grave. I'm in danger." type thing. She's going to kill my character. But there was a moment of, I've been working out that this book was somehow important. It would turn up. I didn't think it would turn up quite that quickly.
Neither did I.
Had a copy of this book ready to go from the descriptions that we got. Now, whether it was close enough or whatever. But that moment of like, what have you done? Because I wanted to message Promethean and say, I've got the book, but it was all happening too quickly to say it. So it's like, hey, here's a bit. He went along with it beautifully, but we got to that moment of like, oh dear, I'm so sorry, Emily.
It's a great clip.
In a campaign, double cross, and that was really easy because that was Marcus to the absolute. Again, he's going to do what it takes, and if it causes us to have a fight, Emily, that was the one bit I was willing to get into a physical fight to get that book.
Yeah. Yeah. What I love about that specific clip, and I back up Promethean here. I'm glad that you didn't send that message because the clip is in the BRB screen. But there is a moment during the clip where you start talking about, here's what I'm thinking, and you start describing it, and me and Pro think we know where it's going, and we're both like, and then neither of us did, and it was fucking excellent. It was so good, and watching Tammy's like smile of success, like it was a great fucking get. It ruined my day, and made me absolutely pivot a ton, which, I feel like I've got you guys good back for that now.
So to be clear, you were incredibly generous. You didn't have to let me do that. You go, no, she's too smart. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that, right? It was so again, I wildly appreciate the generosity and the space for you allowed to do that. Because it's like, nah, the book doesn't look right. She's much smarter than you. She's a big villain. But it gave us a moment of like, hey, and then set us on a path that I think now the party have a couple of clear directions. And the I'm gonna kill you at some point in time on your face was literally just worth it for that moment. It's like, it's like you wanted a sneaky bard. I mean, we've got a rogue that steals hearts, right? We've got a barbarian that crushes love into people, and we've got something that was Delphine at the time that embodied love, right? She literally was embodying love, and she was just so trusting. So to have, an actual criminal in the group who is, a problem, I just think adds that really fun element in play.
Yeah.
It just adds that element because you've got these people that have got their own purposes, and then someone who's like, you know what, it's all about the story, dude and dudettes.
Yeah.
And then you allow that to happen, and it was just so much fun to, kind of pull out. And there's been some other events I've told you a couple of things that could possibly happen, and you've been very kind in dealing with those because I don't want to derail your game. If it was one shot, we'd be done, right? It'd be like, end of world type stuff. But this isn't one of those.
Yeah, no. We have been doing a ton of rewatching on the channel at the moment, and I know you've been incredibly present for a lot of it. What's something that going back through the rewatch you've learned about Marcus? Aside from where he's from.
Yeah, no. Gosh, who knew that'd be a thing? I think part of it is who is watching the Marcus Flynn stuff. So for those that don't know, myself and Promethean did our session 0 with Emily, and we went through a kind of a stepping stone. And again, sometimes characters gel and sometimes they don't. But Promethean could talk about his own character when it gets to. But we just happened to work. I don't know. There wasn't any purpose. We're going to overly push it. We just happened to both be on the same direction. I don't think either of them is like, oh, you're my bestest buddy. And well, it's not one of those kind of cop movies. It really is.
Buddy cop.
It's a marriage of convenience by all the best possible ways. And it's going to take lots of turns and twists with some of the things that have gone on recently. But that felt really evident as I was doing the rewatch. There was a bit of having not each other's back, but having each other's interests at the heart. And the other three players at the time, especially Scarlett, wasn't on the outs, but she had her kind of clique, and it never properly connected back in, even though Valinda and Scarlett had their own moment, or in some cases, a 24 moment for some people, so it was a lot of dice rolling, but we never really came, and that was what I was talking about, that moment where the attacks and the actual fights actually brought the party together of like, hey, we've got to work together and deal with some actual serious problems. And that was really interesting to watch, and that's still there as you watch through. As we get closer to the end of chapter 1, we're getting closer together because there's actually commonality, and we're showing a little bit more empathy to the other half of the party. I always think there was two parties, right? There was Scarlet's side and there was Valenda's side, effectively, and there was quite a strong wall. He tried to bridge that gap. She tried to bridge that gap. Gaps were bridged for a short while, and then they pissed off.
Couple of hours.
Yeah, sure. Editorialize it. I would have put down to minutes, but a couple of hours. You do you, right? So they went
There's
off.
3 of them involved, so who knows?
Again, sure, science. Apparently 3 minutes is all I'm told, so that's 6 minutes. Oh, 9 minutes, let's do all 3. But that was the bit, and if the way I watch that, you see, and we don't share the information that we've learned about each other across that, and it doesn't, it's slowly coming to a point where you as a DM can say, I've told you a bunch of stuff, right? You're all idiots because you're not talking to each other and you're missing key plot points, and we're like, YOLO.
Yeah.
Right?
I definitely, something I've learned is that I foreshadowed a lot more than I thought I did. So that's nice. Go me. I'm going to ask you a super generic question before we go back to, like, Marcus and Echo's specific questions. In generalized character creation, what usually comes first for you? Is it backstory, ability scores, or species class combo?
So depends on the game I'm playing, and so let me frame that out. So if I'm playing with, if we're doing a proper, D&D game, part of it is, as I kind of mentioned, I played, I've been lucky enough to play lots of kind of role-playing games in D&D.
Yeah.
So most of the times you've got people that haven't really played it before, so you say, so what do you want to play first, right? It's that kind of like, let's get them to understand what they want to play. And then sometimes the DM says you need a cleric or you need something else, right? And I find that super easy. We've done that in a lot of games where it's like, I'll play, the classes that's needed from there. So the species thing, it just depends on the world, and it depends because we played a grimdark one, which is basically Middle Earth equivalent. So there's very limited species types, and for me, the dice rolls don't make it. If I wanted naturally, if I wanted 18s and high numbers like that, who cares, right? This is not what D&D. Back in the good old days, second edition, you need the high scores or you're dead.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Fifth edition, if you don't have some minuses, where's the fun for the DM? As part of it. If you can't play a cleric without religion, for example, you're going to have a laugh the second you do that. Or you play
I love that.
Arcana or whatever else, or you have a ranger that doesn't really have survival skills, that turns into a funny moment just as an ongoing campaign joke. Yeah. Unless it's a super serious one. If you're playing with original 2 years or beforehand, then you have to play a very different thing. So it depends on the group you've got. So when you give me a group and say what type of group, then that will then change, because then it will be about stats, not the species. Because you're basically playing a min-max kind of game to make sure you survive.
Yeah.
If you're playing a role-playing one, for example, then it's who you're playing with, and then you build the species around that. Because it's like, hey, what would be an interesting one? Echoes of Divinity, just to call out the current, you gave us the opportunity of playing whatever. You said humans were the majority, and for me, it makes it. Yeah, I could have played a whole bunch of other ones, but what I really like the idea of is playing someone that is a clear part of the world and isn't special in that world.
Yeah.
Rather than having, these extraordinary abilities, and I felt it fun as just being someone who'd been part of your world rather than extraordinary. The fact that I'm surrounded by elves and celestials and Air Genasi, for the love of God, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh, okay, everybody's special with me.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, right? It kind of brings back the story.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I also love the concept that you mentioned of like the bard that isn't a bard, or like, the wizard that isn't intelligent, like that sort of stuff. Like I love these concepts. I think they're a lot of fun, and I think that's a very 5th edition thing. I live by the mantra that there's fun in failure, and I think we should all fail at things sometimes. If I am ever to fudge a dice roll, it's to fail instead of succeed. Because sometimes it's funner. And I don't mean that as a player, don't worry, Maples and Dragons. But yeah, I don't know. I think failing it can be fun. There, at the moment in Echoes, and something that I'm learning more in the rewatch, is there is this shadowy kind of strand that links yourself, Valenda, Tybella, and then there's also some fun parallels between your friend going missing and not being able to find them, and then Valenda's friend being killed, and you know, who cares about her, right? What to you? What are your what are your theories? What are your theories around that? How is that for you to mess with? Like, how do you unravel all these strands?
So, Emily's put together, for anyone that hasn't watched, there's a whole bunch of show reels. There have been 2 events, so 2 supernova events where you've run particular games, and there's whole backstory. I've refused to watch any of them or listen to any of the backstories.
Yeah.
And the reason is that I know what I'm asking is what my character knows within the game space.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be purist about it. It's because I will just cheat. I will literally go right and find a way to, hey,
Self-awareness.
Emily, I've discovered this one, right? It's like, yeah, hey, because I want to get to somewhere faster. You've created a world, you've created an adventure. I want to get us there faster rather than the bit where we spend 4 hours looking at a door and saying it's trapped, right? So the theories go from, so for everyone who's watching it, when Emily gave my character's backstory, I knew nothing about the rings, I knew nothing about the book, knew very little about the gods, everything that we're in this current trajectory about. Marcus has no idea. He is making this up as he goes along, literally making up as he goes along. Oh yeah, know about this, know about that, no idea. Scarlet and sadly Tammy, if she could roll more than a 6 on her dice, right, I reckon we would have moved this adventure on quite a bit, but we didn't, because she'd say, what about this? And it's like, don't know anything about that. That wasn't a dream that I wasn't involved in. And then she might have helped Marcus move along faster, but you've had a whole bunch of conspiracy stuff, and he doesn't really care about the gods. He's interested about them, but doesn't care about the gods. The TikTok that you brought up several times in Briley and Narcelia's voice, for example, as is that a mortality thing. You've mentioned bits in the story that I've got which could tie back into it, but again, you know, as a player, you can always read crap into what the DM says, and it's the character. The simple bit we've got so far is the Book of Divinity is very important. The people that were stopping the gods from returning, or the crossing between the two, have basically all been annihilated. My best friend Briley for Marcus is obviously an actor. We've got Rayella that's an actor as well in this place. Yuseska, because what Marcus doesn't know is Yuseska turned up with a green apple in it, and then both Rayella and Yuseska seem to know about Briley. So is Briley more than that? Is she a villain in her own right? How does Rayella know about stuff? How does Yuseska know? The apple joke, which is the bit that Briley has an apple, which came out in one of the prequels with a very wonderful Ash just came up with this piece, which has now been rolled into the story. It's telling us that there is, these people know each other, know of each other, and are they in conflict? Are they in helping each other? And again, Briley's after the book, Rayella's after the book, Tybella's sort of after the book for different reasons, and Yusetka had the book. So you've got these very powerful set of individuals, but we don't know why they want the book. And until we get a bit closer to their lies on why they want the book, it's going to be fun. It's and Marcus has written up his journals and stuff like that. And for people, you know, watching at home, those are the notes that Marcus kind of has in his books. There's a couple of other things he has, but that's literally his way of interpreting it, rather than the wonderful notes you've written up as a DM on it's there. I just wanted to kind of focus it on what his perception of what it is, and I'll tweak it a little bit more later down the line. But the conspiracy theory really is comes down to the Emerald Cloaks, and who's connected to who, and are the Emerald Cloaks a different organization on top of it? Where they connected to, they seem to be connected to the Chord's Edge, but again, if they're a different strata, they can be in every part of organization, secret society type thing.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to seeing what happens next.
Oh, it's I love listening to your theories about it because you have that I get to hear the theories of a lot of the players, and you're also vastly different, and I adore it. It makes me really happy. Oh my gosh, I just lost all train of thought. My brain just went out of this orbit. Exceptional. If you had to take Marcus to the Feywild, now knowing about the Feywild from your beloved companion, Delphine, what's the first thing that Marcus would explore in the Feywild?
So, for those that haven't had a chance, Salt wrote this thing up, and so I read it when she did. I kind of said, "Hey, it would be really funny if you did that," and she published an entire novel, which I then read, and then I made terrible notes on back to the bit where Marcus kind of makes up reality around the story. So he's got his own version, which I've kind of semi-published. I'd like to go and meet the, basically mum and dad, Delphine, because he's an arch druid. I'm like, okay, cool. If people have got stories, that's the dude to go and talk to. Plus, a figure of power. So basically, hey, can we go meet your parents? Type conversation would be absolutely that, because the Feywild's probably going to be a dangerous place. So having someone that vaguely likes this. Well, I don't know if that will be the case, but if someone vaguely likes this, it'll be
Are they
great.
good guys? Who knows?
So don't care about the good guys. Will they give us protection against whatever hell happens? So I don't care if they're good or bad. So this is the bit about Marcus. I genuinely think Marcus would side with villains as long as it leads to an outcome that is a story.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to manifest, because the party as a whole are looking for positive outcomes, I think.
I guess looking kind of at, before when we were doing the in-character stuff, you went through some of the endings that you foresaw as Marcus for Marcus. As D20 looking at Marcus, what do you think is the most likely end for Marcus?
Because it's D&D, we might have some bad rolls. And that's always a sucky thing. You have a brilliant plan, and then basically you roll a natural one at a moment. Marcus has got like 33 hit points, effectively.
Oh,
right?
yeah. You're so weak.
So basically, Valenda can kill him twice over, so permadeath him if he gets a strike. I've seen Salt as Delphine drop 84 points of damage, right? So he's insta dead from there. Hakari can do something similar, and I'm pretty sure if Scarlet lands a couple of blows, right? So I think it'll be just bad luck in some cases, or bad rolls, or meeting someone, because the other players keep picking fights with people who Marcus is genuinely scared of.
Yeah.
And I'm genuinely scared of, because as soon as someone says I've got these abilities, I kind of do D&D math, and like, unless we've got a bucket load of magic items and we've got the high ground, we're absolute. There's no way. They have to roll ones, we have to roll 20s. Is their kind of conversation, and that's not a mathematical probability you've got. So I think that there'll be. Either we'll be overly ambitious and step into something we cannot handle and Marcus can't get them out of, or they don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Or it will be a split the party moment where we're just going to go off here. And then, because Marcus is technically the only one with any level of healing past the basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which is a fairly dumb thing for a group of adventurers that are quite problematic, because we got a barbarian, we've got a monk, we've got a rogue, and the barb's got some abilities, but and then we got Paladin, but Paladin's kind of like useful for first aid rather than anything kind of meaningful. So, not the worst in the world, but
Yeah.
if I hadn't take Revivify, as a moment, a certain scene wouldn't have happened, and that was just pure luck. That was just literally, I'd picked that spell before wind travel for other reasons.
And looking at your party, who do you think is most likely to outlive the rest, and who do you think is most likely to die first?
So
not
dice
based on like bad dice rolls, based on behavior.
So currently, the one that's most likely to die first is still Scarlet because of the backstory of her grandparents actively trying to has killed her mother. Yeah, it is the part. I mean, she's a barbarian. She can take a stack load more damage from that, right? And deal it out. But potentially, she'll be the biggest target. Valinda's the next one on that list simply because Mummy and Daddy are super interesting individuals and terrifying for all sorts of reasons. Delphine is a tank. Is literally a tank. I mean, she's not only incredibly strong, she's got all the other capabilities. And Hakari can step of the wind and be like, "I'm 120 foot away from you. Oh, bye."
Yeah.
So they're very agile, but the Scarlet is simply the biggest target because barbarians just tend to get clobbered on, and if there's no healer in the party, she's gonna have a bad time because she doesn't want to she doesn't want to disengage. There's no kind of like tactical disengage. She's gonna win the fight or have the fight ended for her.
Yeah.
Is the kind of feel I've got so far. Let's get into a couple more combats and find out if that's the case, DM.
Yeah, you guys have to want to do the combat to get to it.
Wrong character. I'd love to see the others fight. I genuinely love to see the others fight because again, they've got some brilliant moves up their
Now they're too busy flirting with each other. It's great.
Sure.
We're playing D&D Love Simulator, or not love. We're playing, hey, this has been really fun, D. I have really enjoyed hanging out with you. I guess I'm gonna give you the same opportunity that I gave that Wisteria gave Marcus. Do you have any words of advice or wisdom for anyone looking to create a cool character in TTRPG?
So if you're lucky enough to have a DM and group like I do in the first bit, right, it's collaboration is the conversation. What do you want to do, right? So if you've got a concept that you've always wanted to give a go and you tell people, yeah, you're going to have 3 fighters and they can be completely different. They can all have the same stats, but they're completely different. It's the communicate what you want to do and be clear in your communication and say why. Don't just say what, say the why. So any of those that follow Simon Sybeck and that stuff, you start with a why. Why are you doing this as a character? And just explain to people. Because if you say my fighter's really cool and will kill everybody, right, it doesn't really tell you what you're doing. If you come up with a why beforehand, people can say, well, I could help you by doing this, or I could do that, or I could be this person, or I'm doing this, and you can adapt to it. So I think in a group that the other people, start with why you want to do it, and then talk to them about it, and then talk to your DM and say, this is what I'm trying to achieve from it. Otherwise,
I love that.
Just play Baldur's Gate 3, right? Because you can just roll up. It's a different thing, right? It's a different set of mechanics. You can play Baldur's Gate 3, you can play with your friends.
Yeah.
But you've kind of rolled up a character, and the character, you're the character. The fact that you're playing whatever it is, doesn't have the same drive. You can muck around, you can do things. In your case, you can, get blown up by ham and knocked off, or instant death yourself in different ways.
Yeah.
Go and see the stream stuff. But it doesn't have that same sort of resonance. You're not playing a person you're trying to understand or go through it, and people need to know what that kind of basic why is. And if they don't have that, then it gets harder for people that don't know each other and trust each other.
Yeah. No, I agree. I love it. D, tell us once again who you are, where we can find you, and what you've been up to.
Well, you can find me here on the 30th of this month for Echoes of Divinity with our wonderful DM Emily and a rather radiant cast of other people, including Talera, I knew you said Valinda. Promethean, so he's got a 0 in a professional gamer. In Lockie from Mimic's Den, and the incredible Salt Plays
Queen?
Yeah,
The Salt Queen plays.
Salt Queen plays. It's like ice cream. I get them wrong all the way around.
Listen.
But rather incredible people on now, what, almost 2 Fridays away?
Yeah, it's
Terrifying.
actually, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
2
it's
Fridays
in-
away.
Yeah, it's in 10 days.
Yeah, and if I'm lucky enough to be, get involved in a charity game, I occasionally appear on those ones just because, it's an incredible opportunity to force chaos and hopefully help people.
Hey, you did a pretty fucking great time at Split the Party. It was a ton of fun to watch. Yeah, it was great. Hey, thank you all for tuning in. This has been a ton of fun. Thank you to anyone who sent questions. A couple of things to really quickly shout out. Keep an eye on Split the Party TV. I will be running a charity game on the 26th of this month where your donations can directly impact the game. It is called Bardcore, and everyone must play a bard. D20's favourite characters. So that's going to be a ton of fun, featuring a bunch of different people. Keep an eye out for that. But next Tuesday, This Is Your Questline is returning, so that when I take a small break in June for my move, it doesn't feel as long between episodes. We're going to have Talera79 and Scarlet Bell from the same campaign next week, which is going to be a ton of fun. Any of your questions that you have, drop them in the This Is Your Questline Discord. And as mentioned by Dee, the Friday after, we will be doing the next episode of Echoes of Divinity. It's going to be a ton of fun. Spoiler alert, we have a cutscene that will be airing in that one also. This one, the players cannot watch. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Keep an eye out. And until next time, thank you. We're going to raid Split the Party TV. Who are playing some Outer Wilds and likely yapping about the weekend where they raised over $12,000 for Game on Cancer. I will tell you what to do, Promethean, because I can. I am your TM. Anyway, have fun. We're gonna go raid now. Wave and look nice.